How's it going, guys? Today I want to talk to you about motivation. So motivation is something that is so individual, right? And each one of us is so different to the next that we all have different things which motivate us, and that's what's really cool about, I guess, just people in general, is that there are so many different things which motivate us. But I also feel that there's like this sort of overarching thing which we can all kind of apply to our lives, which can make us more motivated and more interested in doing things. And there's certain tools and strategies and stuff out there, and I guess in this chat hopefully I'll share a few that have worked for me and things that keep me motivated in life. But I think it's also just good to be aware that motivation goes like this, seriously, and that's just part of being human, really. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Oprah Winfrey or you're Arnold Schwarzenegger or you're just some normal person like myself. It's you have these ups and downs, these ebbs and flows, which all just happen, and you just need to do the best you can to kind of get out of the downs so that you can get back into the ups. And I think there's a lot of cool ways you can actually do that. So it's just important to remember that we're all human, we all have the ups and downs, but we all do require some sort of motivation and inspiration in our lives, okay? One of the most important things in the world, it's like we're all on this treadmill and we're all just going, just moving forward all the time. Seriously, we never take a breath. We never get off that treadmill, and we never reassess. We never reevaluate or recalibrate where we're going. We're just marching on forward because we think that's what we should be doing. But actually, often you need to just get off that treadmill. You need to take a step back and you need to go, flippin' hell, what am I actually doing with my life? Where am I going? What am I doing? I need to get some focus, basically. And that is one thing which I think is important, is to kind of just be aware of that, take a step back every now and then to just work out where you're going and what you want to do, so that you can get motivated about things. Because if you're just moving forward and you're just going with the flow, then that doesn't always help with the motivation, because you don't necessarily have any idea where you're going. You can get a little bit lost, actually. And that brings me on to self-awareness. I think this is one of the most important things in the entire world, and sadly a lot of people are lacking self-awareness, and self-awareness is all about getting to know yourself, and this has got to do with coming off that treadmill and actually taking the time, investing in yourself, just from a time perspective, to understand who you are. And once you understand who you are, you're able to just operate on a better level, and you're also able to come at things from a different perspective. You're able to understand that other people have different points of view, and that it's important to acknowledge that and to listen to them. But you can only do this once you are 100% self-aware with how you act and how you are as a person. Okay. So some of the tools that I find help me with motivation, self-awareness, all these sort of things. First one is to start writing, okay? One of the most important things and easiest things we can all do, and we all have access to, it doesn't cost you any money whatsoever, is starting to write. Seriously, just start writing down your thoughts. We often have so much stuff going on in our head that things become overwhelming, to be honest with you. It's just so much going on that you never deload. You have to deload at some point in your life. And just by writing, I find that is, for me, definitely one of the most therapeutic things. Not only therapeutic, but also creative. Once you start writing, ideas start coming because you're creating the space within your head, and I think that is super, super important, right? There's a great thing called morning pages, where you sit down, you literally take 3 empty pages of an A4 book or whatever it is, and you start writing. Whatever comes to your head and comes into your mind, you just start writing. and you just let it flow. And people have quite profound effects and results because of this writing. Another thing that I really recommend is a thing called the Daily Stoic Journal. It asks you some really deep and difficult questions and things you don't normally ask yourself, because we're just going in this one direction. And when you actually start asking yourself some difficult questions and having to write about it, and then having to put pen and paper, so that it sort of crystallizes, it brings up some very interesting stuff, and a lot of growth actually happens from that. So definitely start writing. I highly recommend it. Number 2, stop comparing yourself. Seriously, do not compare yourself to anybody else, like at all, in anything you do whatsoever. Compare yourself to the person that you want to be, right? Compare yourself to who you want to be in the future and what you want to be in the future. That's who you should be comparing yourself against, okay? If you're comparing yourself to other people, you're often comparing yourself to only what you see, right? People are only these days generally posting the good stuff, positivity and their awards and the achievements and everything. But actually, there's a whole nother layer to that, a deep, deep layer of things that they are not doing so well and that are difficult in their life, that are issues in their life. And if you're comparing only to what you're seeing, it's a very slippery slope, and you'll become very overwhelmed because you're not achieving and doing as well as these other people. So please stop comparing. Also, don't compare yourself to people that are experts in the world. I kind of noticed that myself, like, a few years ago. I was like comparing myself to all these people that are so successful, thinking, I'm never actually going to get there myself, because these guys have just done so much, and they have this going on and they have that going on, and wow, like they have all these followers and they have, these courses and all this stuff. But the reality is like they've been doing it a long time, and you can't compare yourself to them. You have to realize and recognize that they started somewhere too. They started at the bottom. They started where you are now as well. But they put in the work. They were consistent. They did things. They took action. They showed up. And that's why they are where they are now. You can definitely look at them, watch what they're doing, steal ideas 100%, model your stuff on them. Definitely, but don't compare yourself to them, because that is a dangerous place to get, okay? Number 3 is taking ownership for absolutely every single thing that you do in your entire life. Seriously, like I see it far too often in the corporate world and in life in general. People don't take ownership. In the first instance, they'll always point fingers. It's always that person's fault, or they did something wrong. It's never their own fault, And what are you doing by doing that? It's just kind of like childish, if I'm honest. But when you take ownership for absolutely every single thing in your life, both good and bad, there's something amazing about it. It's quite gratifying, actually. It's also quite humbling. It's quite powerful too, because you kind of know that it doesn't matter what happens, everything is within your control. Everything is within your realm, and therefore, whatever happens, it is all your responsibility, okay? And I think it's a very, very, very important thing to do. It's very, very powerful. You'll find when you go, okay, everything is in my control, everything is owned by me, therefore, whatever the outcome, good or bad, I can't blame anybody else besides myself, and I've just got to go for it. So this is such an important thing we need to do for so many things. You'll find it's a very powerful thing that you do when you start taking ownership for everything. Next one is about setting goals, right? I think it's so important to set goals in life, rather than just going with the flow. Going with the flow is cool too, but have some goals in your life too. Have something to work towards. Have something that you can improve on. Have something that's going to challenge you, that's going to grow you in life. It's good to be moving forward, because also when you set goals, you become interesting. You have things to talk about. You inspire other people. This is so important. You inspire other people because you're doing things. Remember, there's lots of side benefits of why you actually do things. So if you have the biggest goal in the world, it can be super overwhelming at the start, but make sure that you break them down. Seriously, break them down into smaller little tasks, little bite-sized things that you can work on every single day, that if you do every single day, it'll get you closer to that massive goal. If you want to be president, if you want to be the CEO of this massive company, or if you just want to learn how to do a handstand, seriously, set yourself a goal. Set yourself achievable, smaller tasks so that you can actually get there and start doing it. Seriously, there's so much cool stuff that happens when you start setting goals and you start writing things down. Right, this ties in nicely with setting goals. This is about enjoying challenges, making the most of them, making the most of the journey. If you do not enjoy the journey, if you do not enjoy the challenges, then there's actually no point. If you've set yourself this massive goal and you never end up achieving it, then what happens? Like, is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world, because you've made a conscious effort to enjoy the journey. Seriously, it's so important, like, just to make the most of it. And that's where you're going to learn so many of the things, is along the way. You know, it's not going to be that you've now achieved this thing. It's everything that you've actually done along the way, which is really great. Seriously, you're gonna be thrown a ton of challenges, right? In different ways. Some of them are going to be full-on barriers, like boom, stop here. Others are going to be little hurdles, some are going to be little speed bumps, but it's those things which are actually really going to be your learning points. Like, you know, you're going to have to sometimes get up off the ground, dust yourself off, and go again, keep marching forward. But make sure that you just make the most of these challenges. Just treat everything as a learning opportunity, because when you do that, magic really does start to happen. Next one here, right? Motivation only starts after you actually start doing something. So this kind of sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but this is what I mean. When you start doing something, probably because you want to do it, because you think you need to do something, because you've set yourself a goal, etc., right? And you might not necessarily be massively amped and motivated at the start. That's just the truth. Like, you might want to start going for a run every single day or a few times a week. So that's what you do. But it's flippin' difficult getting up in the morning at 5:30 and getting your shoes on and getting motivated when it's cold outside. But that's why you have the discipline in the start, right? And then when you start going for the runs, during your first run or whatever it is, your second, your third, you're like, okay, this is cool, I've started, I'm feeling good, right? After 2 weeks of running, all of a sudden you start noticing that you're happier, that you've got a spring in your step, that you've maybe dropped a belt size, that your mind is more clear. That is when motivation really kicks in, is once you get going, after you start doing something, right? It doesn't happen immediately, but you have to start. That's super important, okay? And then the other thing is consistency. All of these things require consistency, right? They require you every single day to show up, right? To do things, to check things off, to whatever it is, just make sure that you are consistently doing something, that you're moving forward, right? That's how you achieve things, is by doing things day in and day out. And that is how you increase your motivation. And once you start increasing your motivation, seriously, your mind starts to switch and magic starts to happen. So these are only a few things that I think are important for motivation. There's a ton more to. Make sure you experiment, make sure you do things, make sure you start, make sure you persevere. These are all really important traits and characteristics to keep your motivation going. I hope you found them super helpful. I hope you keep on doing cool things. And this is Gareth Martin, over and out. Thank you for listening and watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.